The sound of heavy machinery ripped through the peaceful morning air as I watched my mother-in-law, Diana, direct the bulldozer straight through the heart of my butterfly sanctuary. 15 years of careful cultivation, endangered species conservation, and delicate ecosystem management reduced to dirt in minutes. Perfect. Diana clapped her hands with glee, her perfectly manicured nails glinting in the sunlight. Sarah, darling, this space will make the most amazing party venue for Jessica. Those worthless flowers were just taking up prime real estate. My name is Emma Anderson, and at 35, I'd spent over half my life creating one of the most successful butterfly conservation programs in the state. What Diana saw as worthless flowers was actually a carefully crafted habitat that had helped bring 3 endangered species back from the brink of extinction. Diana, I kept my voice steady, though my hands were shaking. This is a protected sanctuary. You can't just destroy it. She waved her hand dismissively, her diamond bracelet catching the light. Oh please, I checked. The protection paperwork expired last month, and since this is technically our family property, I can do whatever I want with it. She smiled, that same cold smile she'd given me at my wedding to her son Michael 7 years ago. Jessica needs somewhere suitable for her social events. She's becoming quite the influencer, you know. Jessica, my sister-in-law, stood off to the side, filming the destruction for her social media. This is going to be so perfect for my summer soiree series. She squealed, adjusting her designer sunglasses. Nobody wants to see boring butterflies anyway. I thought about the rare chrysalises hidden throughout the garden, the careful documentation of migration patterns, the delicate balance of plants and insects I'd maintained for years. Diana had timed this perfectly. Michael was away on a business trip, and she knew the sanctuary's official protected status had temporarily lapsed while the renewal paperwork was being processed. What she didn't know was that I'd been preparing for something like this ever since she'd started making comments about the waste of space 3 months ago. You really should thank me, Diana continued, watching as the bulldozer crushed my award-winning moonflower patch. This place was bringing down the neighborhood's property values. Jessica's parties will put us on the map. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Diana's smile faltered slightly. What are you doing? Documenting. I replied calmly. Please continue explaining why you're destroying a sanctuary that houses endangered species. Turn that off. Jessica shrieked, lowering her own phone. You can't film me without permission. I'm an influencer. But I kept recording as Diana strutted around the destruction, detailing her grand plans for Jessica's venue. The pergolas draped in designer fabrics, the imported marble fountains, the sophisticated lighting system. Each detail she mentioned was another nail in her own coffin. What Diana and Jessica didn't understand was that butterflies aren't just beautiful, they're survivors. And so was I. The landscapers will be here tomorrow to clear out any remaining weeds, Diana announced, brushing non-existent dirt from her silk blouse. Jessica's first event is in 2 weeks. I expect you to be supportive, Emma. After all, we're family. Family. The word felt bitter in my mouth. I thought about the hidden cameras I'd installed throughout the sanctuary last month, the careful documentation I'd been keeping, and the emergency conservation plan I put into place with the help of Dr. Martinez from the State Wildlife Protection Agency. Of course, I said, smiling for the first time that day. Family is everything, isn't it? Diana's eyes narrowed slightly at my tone, but she quickly recovered. Exactly. I knew you'd understand. Come along, Jessica. We need to meet with the event planner. As they click-clacked away in their expensive heels, I looked at the devastation around me. To an untrained eye, it looked like complete destruction. But I knew better. Underground, hidden in specially designed protected chambers, thousands of chrysalises were waiting to emerge. In the surrounding trees, carefully camouflaged sanctuary boxes housed countless others. I pulled out my phone again, this time to make a call. Dr. Martinez, it's happened. Yes, exactly as we predicted. Can you come now and bring the documentation team? That evening, as the sun set over the destroyed garden, I sat on my back porch and opened my laptop. The sanctuary's social media accounts had over 500,000 followers, all dedicated to butterfly conservation and environmental protection. I began uploading the day's footage, Diana's destruction, her boasting, Jessica's callous comments. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Flight delayed. Be home tomorrow. Everything okay? I looked at the demolished sanctuary, remembering how Michael and I had met there 7 years ago when he visited to write an article about butterfly conservation. He'd understood then what his mother and sister never could. That true beauty isn't about social media followers or expensive parties. It's about protecting something precious, something irreplaceable. Everything's going exactly as planned, I texted back. Tomorrow, Diana and Jessica would learn a powerful lesson about nature. Because what they destroyed wasn't just a garden. It was one of the largest collections of endangered butterfly species in the country. And tomorrow was the scheduled emergence day for over 3,000 chrysalises. I smiled as I watched the sunset, imagining Diana's face when she arrived with her landscapers. Sometimes the most beautiful revenge doesn't require any action at all. Sometimes you just need to let nature take its course. My phone buzzed again, this time with an alert from the hidden cameras. In the darkness, the first chrysalis was beginning to open. The next morning dawned clear and bright, perfect weather for what was about to unfold. I arrived at the sanctuary early, camera in hand, just as Diana's expensive SUV pulled up with her team of landscapers. Now remember, I heard her instructing them. I want everything cleared out. Every last weed, every stick, every. Her voice died in her throat as she looked up. The sight was breathtaking. Thousands of butterflies, their wings glistening in the morning sun, filled the air. Rare blue morphos, endangered monarchs, and the critically threatened Silva's metalmark, species that collectors would pay fortunes to acquire, danced through the air in a stunning display of color and movement. What is this? Diana stammered, her perfectly applied makeup unable to hide her growing panic. Nature, I replied simply, continuing to film. More specifically, about 3,000 endangered butterflies emerging from their chrysalises. Perfect timing, wouldn't you say? Jessica tumbled out of the passenger seat, her designer outfit clashing with the early morning hour. She immediately raised her phone, but for once, she seemed speechless. This is impossible, Diana hissed. You planned this. The landscapers were already backing away, one of them muttering about not getting involved in environmental violations. Diana's face flushed red. This is private property, she snapped. I have every right to destroy federally protected species. Dr. Martinez raised an eyebrow. The paperwork for renewed protection was filed months ago. The only reason it appeared to lapse was because we were upgrading the sanctuary's status to a federal conservation site. I watched as the color drained from Diana's face. Behind her, Jessica was frantically deleting yesterday's social media posts. But, Diana's perfectly manicured hands trembled. This is family property, my son. Actually, I interrupted quietly. Michael and I transferred ownership of this property to the Conservation Trust last month. He agreed it was the best way to protect the sanctuary's future. The look of betrayal on Diana's face would have been comical if it weren't so sad. Michael would never. As if on cue, another car pulled up. Michael stepped out, his business suit slightly rumpled from travel, but his face set with determination. Mother, he said firmly, walking to stand beside me. What have you done? Michael. Diana's voice shifted to the sweet tone she always used with her son. Darling, I was just trying to help Jessica with her career. You know how important her social media presence is. Michael looked at the destroyed garden, then at the clouds of butterflies still emerging. By destroying endangered species, by bulldozing Emma's life's work, the sanctuary that brought us together. But she's not family, Diana protested. Not really. Jessica is your sister, your blood. Emma is my wife. Michael's voice was quiet but firm. And this sanctuary is her passion, one that I share. Did you really think I didn't know about your plans? That Emma and I hadn't prepared for this? Jessica finally found her voice. You knew? You let Mom walk into this trap. It wasn't a trap, I said softly. It was protection. For the butterflies, for the sanctuary, and yes, for myself. Every threat Diana made, every time she talked about better uses for this land. We documented it all. Dr. Martinez stepped forward again. Mrs. Watson, we'll need you to come with us to discuss the environmental violations. The deliberate destruction of endangered species habitat carries significant penalties. Diana's perfectly composed facade finally cracked. But what about Jessica's parties? Her influencer career? I suggest, Michael said, that Jessica finds a venue that doesn't involve destroying protected species. As the wildlife protection team led Diana away for questioning, Jessica trailed behind them, still frantically working on her phone. I heard her muttering about damage control and losing followers. Michael turned to me, pulling me into a tight embrace. "I'm so sorry I couldn't be here yesterday, but you handled it perfectly." I leaned into his embrace, watching as more butterflies continued to emerge. "We did what we had to do. Your mother never understood that some things are worth more than social status." Speaking of worth, Dr. Martinez interrupted gently with the sanctuary's new federal status. "You'll be eligible for additional funding. The emerging butterflies have already attracted national attention." She was right. News vans were starting to arrive, drawn by the spectacular sight of thousands of rare butterflies filling the morning sky. The destruction Diana had wreaked had inadvertently created the perfect staging ground for their emergence, making the spectacle even more dramatic. Maybe some good will come from this after all, I mused, watching as a particularly beautiful blue morpho landed on what remained of my moonflower patch. Already, I could see tiny shoots of green pushing through the disturbed soil. Michael squeezed my hand. Nature finds a way. As the morning progressed, visitors began to arrive, drawn by the incredible sight. Where Diana had envisioned expensive parties, something far more valuable was taking place. People connecting with nature, learning about conservation, understanding the importance of protecting these delicate species. I smiled, remembering Diana's words from yesterday. Nobody wants to see boring butterflies anyway. The growing crowd of amazed onlookers proved just how wrong she'd been. Sometimes the most beautiful revenge isn't destruction at all. It's creation, protection, and letting nature show its own power. The sanctuary would rebuild stronger than before. And maybe, just maybe, Diana would learn something from all this. Though judging by the legal papers Dr. Martinez was preparing, her first lessons would be about environmental law. Part 3. 6 months later, the butterfly sanctuary had transformed in ways I never could have imagined. The destruction Diana caused had actually created new opportunities for growth. Where her bulldozers had torn through my carefully planned gardens, we built enhanced breeding habitats. The cleared space allowed us to implement improved protection systems and create educational areas for visitors. And here, I explained to a group of wide-eyed schoolchildren, is where our newest species made its home. I gestured to a flowering section where brilliant violet wings fluttered among the blooms. They chose this spot all on their own. "Just like magic," one little girl exclaimed, her face full of wonder. It wasn't magic, but it was pretty close. The sanctuary had not only recovered but thrived. Our visitor numbers had quadrupled, and 3 more endangered species had successfully bred in our protected environment. The federal funding Dr. Martinez helped secure had turned this space into a leading conservation center. Diana, meanwhile, had faced her own transformations. The environmental violations came with hefty fines and mandatory community service hours. In an ironic twist that even I couldn't have planned, the judge assigned her to work in butterfly garden rehabilitation programs. "Mrs. Watson," I heard one of the conservation officers call out, "those milkweed plants need to be spaced further apart." I turned to see Diana, dressed in decidedly undesigner gardening clothes, carefully repositioning plants under supervision. The past months had changed her appearance. Her perfectly manicured nails were now often dirt-stained, and her expensive highlights had grown out. She caught my eye briefly before looking away. We hadn't spoken directly since that morning 6 months ago, but I'd seen subtle changes in her behavior. Last week, I'd overheard her explaining to another community service worker why certain plants were essential for butterfly breeding. She'd actually gotten it right. Jessica had undergone her own transformation. After her followers criticized her role in destroying endangered species, she'd surprisingly pivoted her social media presence. Her latest posts focused on environmental awareness, though I suspected this was more about image rehabilitation than genuine change. Still, any positive influence was welcome. "Emma?" Michael's voice pulled me from my thoughts. He joined me as the school group moved to the next station. "The Conservation Board just called. They've approved our expansion proposal." I smiled, squeezing his hand. The expansion would allow us to protect an additional 20 acres of land, creating one of the largest butterfly conservation areas in the country. Perfect timing. The new species are going to need more space. Speaking of space, he hesitated, glancing toward his mother. Mom asked if she could continue volunteering here after her community service ends. I raised my eyebrows, surprised. Diana had never shown any interest in actual conservation work before her mandatory service. Really? She said working with the butterflies has been therapeutic. Michael shrugged. I think she finally understands what you've been trying to create here. As if to emphasize his point, a massive blue morpho butterfly landed on Diana's shoulder as she worked. Instead of shrieking or shooing it away as she once would have, she carefully paused her work until it chose to fly off. Well, I said thoughtfully, we could always use experienced volunteers who understand the importance of protection and conservation. The sanctuary had taught me many lessons over the years, but perhaps the most important was that transformation, like the metamorphosis of a butterfly, takes time and the right conditions. Diana's attempt to destroy this place had instead forced her to understand its value. Later that afternoon, as the sun began to set, I found Diana still working in the garden. She looked up as I approached, her face uncertain. The black swallowtail seemed to prefer this section, she said quietly, gesturing to the plants she'd been tending. I've been keeping track of their patterns. I nodded, noting how healthy the plants looked under her care. They're very particular about their habitat. You've done good work here. She was silent for a moment, then spoke softly. I never understood before. I thought it was just flowers and bugs. But it's so much more than that. It's about protection, I replied. About creating safe spaces for vulnerable things to grow and transform. Diana met my eyes, and for the first time, I saw genuine understanding there. Yes, she said simply. I see that now. As we stood there in the growing dusk, butterflies dancing around us in the golden light, I realized that the sanctuary had worked its magic once again. It had transformed not just the land, but the people who touched it, even those who had once sought to destroy it. Sometimes the most beautiful revenge isn't about getting even or proving points. Sometimes it's about creating something so undeniably valuable that it changes hearts and minds all on its own. The butterflies had known this all along. They just needed us humans to catch up. Same time tomorrow? I asked Diana as she gathered her gardening tools. She nodded, a small but genuine smile crossing her face. The monarchs will be emerging. And they would be beautiful.